Hello, welcome to episode 13 on the series Introduction to Programming. We're going to take a look at a variant of the for loop. One common operation in JavaScript is looping over an array and using each value in the array. We could easily use an index, but there is a more concise structure that we can use. Let's take a look. Looking at the code here, we can see that we have an array defined as our input. It has three values. We have a for loop using the index-based access. And if I run this, it'll spit out our three values that you can see over here. Now, this isn't the only way that we can go through each value in an array. We can use something called a for each loop. And in JavaScript, this is referred to as a for of loop. Right? And the reason why is because we have this for of as our keyword within this loop. So if I go and write it out like so, right line, and I write out the value, there's a couple of things that are going to happen here. So first of all, if I run it, it's going to spit it out twice. We are defining within our loop the variable that we would like each value from input to be assigned to. Then we can make use of that variable within this loop. We're not using indexes. We're not trying to perform any of the conditional operations that we need. It simply is going to do the equivalent of this, but within a much more concise construct. A closer translation to this would be, if I go var value here and I copy this out, and I simply put value here, these two are equivalent. But you'll notice that the second one here, this for each loop, is a lot more concise. Now, it wouldn't be fair for me to start talking about this without talking about some of the limitations of using this more concise syntax. It is more concise. You are going to use it a lot, but there are things you cannot do with it. One of the examples of this is in my loop here, I can change it so that I am skipping a value when I iterate. There is no equivalent way to do it within here without me having to do a bit of extra work. So if you're ever going to do a loop over an array and you want to skip values, the old or more standard format for the for loop is going to be your best bet. Additionally, if I'm going to flip it around, instead of the increment, I use the decrement. Then I have to swap down these conditions around here. 0. One off of here because indexes start at 0. If I go and run this, obviously I can have it iterate down, and then it'll iterate back up because it's running the second loop here. So that's handy, but you won't be able to do the equivalent just with the for loop here. You'd have to do something to the array to reverse the order of it so that you can then iterate using the for of loop. But it may not be as convenient as simply writing out the for loop. But again, most of the time, you're going to just go through and do something each time you want to access a value in an array. And you're not really going to worry about how you iterate through or the order that you can. There are a few other things you can do. They're not really relevant to the for each loop, but we'll take a look at some of the other options you have available to you when it comes to loops in future videos. For each loops are a modern way in JavaScript to fetch values from an array. We will explore other ways to work with loops in future videos. Have a good day.